Tonight on America's Dumbest Criminals, what happens when a guy has a half-baked idea about stealing a bread truck? A major mistake with a major appliance gets this crook stopped cold. Sit back and relax. Your life is going to look much better when you compare it to America's Dumbest Criminals.
Delta 1566. Give me a call on your
Now, welcome your host for America's Dumbest Criminals, Daniel Butler and Debbie Allen.
Hi there.
Hey, Debbie.
Yes, sir.
What is your dream car? Huh?
Oh, dream car. I rode in a limo once. That was fun.
Oh, you want dream car and driver,
Sure,
of course.
why not?
I should have
What about
known.
yours?
Oh, I'd want a Hummer, you know, like Schwarzenegger, something scary.
Yeah, don't you think most people would choose something like sporty like a Porsche or classic like a 57 Chevy maybe?
Yeah, most people, yeah. But the guy we're going to meet a little later, no. He thought it'd be great to ride around town in a bread truck. But first up is a story that involves bootlegged compact disc.
You're about to meet a man who multiplied his miseries by duplicating record albums. Let's join him for his swan song.
We entered into a transaction with a guy that was selling counterfeit Microsoft Windows 98 CDs. I bought from him several times, made an arrangement to buy another 850. When he arrived, he was 45 minutes late. Always happens that way. He parks in the wrong place. He's completely out of view from my surveillance team, my cameras and everything, so I have to ask him to come over. And just like an idiot or a dummy that he was, he just pulls it over there right next to my car where it's in view of everything. During the purchase itself, basically, I gave him $8,500. He had it in his hand for about 5 seconds until my takedown team took him off. It's really funny because he questioned me so many times about being a policeman, and I'd reassured him the whole time that I wasn't a policeman. And he was just so dumb that he believed me the whole time I wasn't a cop. And I was at the end. He was scared to death at that time. He basically didn't know what to do, and after knowing or asking, thinking I was a policeman the whole time, he basically just sat there and at the end.
Couldn't believe he was gone after all that. Debbie, you remember those old episodes of Lassie? You know, when Lassie would get separated from her family and then she seemed lost, and then finally she came home, you know?
Oh, sure, I remember him. I can tear up just thinking about him, you know?
Me too. But our next story is almost exactly like that, except the part of Lassie is played by a sport utility vehicle.
Here's this week's heart-rending installment of Something to Remember Me By.
Here's Sport U.
All right. Well, one of the hardest cases we've had to work here is a guy stole the mayor's Suburban. Brought it back and parked it in his driveway. Pretty convenient. He called us, said, somebody's been gone in my Suburban. Went out there, it had been driven several hundred miles. Pretty obvious that whoever had it had partied hardy. Beer cans everywhere in it, trashed out pretty bad. A guy had thrown up in the front seat. He was saying, well, I don't guess there's anything much we can do about this. I told him, I said, I think I can solve this for you pretty quick. And he said, no, there's no way you'll ever figure it out. I'd looked in the back seat and found the guy's Texas Department of Corrections inmate card. His name, picture, where he lives, and all the information that we need to find him. Laying in the back seat, along with the contents of his stomach.
No.
Well, he looked like a dentist. He acted like a dentist. He caused untold misery like a dentist. But when authorities took a closer look, they found a whole set of false teeth claims.
Yep, for the nitty-gritty, let's conduct a little cavity search in the mouth.
Even his name is a mouthful. Ilya A. Treadway Hathorn. Everyone here knew him as a decent dentist who treated prisoners in Marion County, Florida.
Oh, he prescribed a antibiotic, which was okay, and he did a pretty good job.
But when he was arrested at this department store for shoplifting, a jaw-dropping truth came to light. He wasn't a dentist at all. Not only had he pulled teeth, he'd pulled the wool over authorities' eyes.
I don't care if he's licensed or not. He was a better dentist than anybody else I've had.
He seemed legit, even had a private practice, but his license was bogus. And instead of this being a place of business, it became a place of residence. As you might expect, having an imposter tooling around in their mouths has become a sore spot that the inmates don't want brushed aside.
It's the sheriff's fault. It's their negligence because they didn't run a criminal check on this man who, like you said, seen 1,000 people.
We are in the process now of conducting an internal investigation into the hiring process of this individual to find out what happened where he fell through the cracks.
In Seattle, it is illegal to carry a concealed weapon that is over 6 feet in length.
For the doper you're about to meet, the problem wasn't concealing drugs, it was getting rid of the stuff. If possession is 9/10 of the law, this guy was trying hard to be in that 1/10 minority. Nice try, no sale. He weaseled his way into the feature we call America's Dumbest Excuses.
We were working an area, a high crime area, for narcotics trafficking. And I was driving back to the station, and I saw a guy standing on the street corner, obviously selling some narcotics. He looked at me, and I could tell he knew I was a cop, and I could tell he was a bad guy. So I pulled into the convenience store parking lot, and as I did, he had a small bag in his hand, like it would hold a bottle. He ran back towards the store and threw the bag inside a garbage can, and then took off running down the street. Caught him about half a block away, handcuffed and brought him back to the store. And of course, he's denying that he did anything wrong. He was just jogging. When I brought him back to the store, I reached into the garbage can and removed the bag that he had thrown away. When I looked inside it, I could see it was full of rock cocaine. I didn't say anything to him, but the second I looked inside the bag, he yelled at me, "That's not my dope." I threw that away. I just looked at the backup officer and said, "Did you hear him say that?" He said yes, and obviously we had a conviction.
Well, why do you think we call them dopes? Debbie, what do you have to follow that, huh?
Oh, a good one. Here's what we were talking about earlier, the saga of the bread truck bandit. And as we follow this trail of crumbs, a much bigger story rises. Here's tonight's Blue Light Special.
It's not your typical crime scene, but this is not your typical crime.
It is unusual. We haven't had too many thefts of items like this, such as bread truck.
While making a delivery to a store, the driver came out to find his bread truck had rolled on without him.
Thought it was a joke.
But it was no joke. A thief had gotten his buns out of there in a hurry, leading police on a chase that ended when the truck became mired in the mud. There, investigators learned the bad guy with the baked goods may have been involved in another illegal activity, dog fights. Police found these cages in the backyard of the home where he had dropped off $500 worth of bread, possibly to feed dogs used in fights. With evidence mounting, the police had plenty of information to move on, while the delivery man moved out. After all, fresh bread is fresh bread for only so long.
Coming up later, a perpetrator nearly becomes a popsicle. But first, with news confirmed by low-ranking White House officials, here's Daniel with ADC Headlines.
When an intoxicated patron was ignored by the clerk at an Anchorage adult bookstore, the customer picked up the cash register and ran out of the door. But this soddened soul left a paper trail. Literally, the cash register tape unfurled as he ran, leading police directly to the man. Okay, cut the tape. Obviously, this next crook failed to read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Pilferers. He broke into a bank after hours, but found the vault just too hard to crack. Hating to leave empty-handed, he climbed onto a chair and yanked the surveillance video camera from the wall. Slight oversight, okay? The video recorder in the back of the bank captured a great close-up of this highly recognizable fellow in mid-thievery. Shouldn't have gone for the camera. And finally, an escapee from Fairbanks Correctional Center made a choice that made it hard for him to blend into the general populace. Some years ago, it seems, he had had an expletive tattooed in inch-high letters on his left cheek. All right. Because he was unable to turn the other cheek to everyone he met, he was soon located and recaptured. No doubt he's muttering a word that's right on the tip of his tongue and the side of his face. Well, on that low note, we'll close the file on ADC Headlines News, ripped from somewhere near the back of your local newspaper. Debbie?
Now we're going to look at a duo of criminals in Florida who were anything but dynamic in pulling off two separate capers. Both bad guys used cabs to pull off bank jobs, but each adds his own unique touch of stupidity.
No question about it, this guy was gutsy or very, very dumb. He holds up a bank wearing no disguise, using a taxi as his getaway car. He was practically begging to get caught.
Comes back out, gets in a cab right in front of everybody, has the cab take him over to Fort Myers and drops him off at the Burger King on College Parkway. Yeah, he took the stolen money right out of the bag and he gave it to the cab driver. Gave her a $20 bill and said, keep the change.
Ah, but the meter was up on you, buddy.
Another day, another robber, another taxi, another bank, another dumb criminal.
This robber followed the same dumb modus operandi, but added his own special twist. Note the note on the counter.
He used his own check, his paycheck stub that had his name, what boat he was on, the whole work, Social Security number. He left it all on there. He just turned it over and used that. I guess he didn't have anything else to write on.
Perhaps he can use the back of his conviction papers to write himself a pardon.
You know, it's a nice gesture to give a friend a ride when he needs one. But when you pick him up in a stolen car and you both get arrested, the gesture you give him might not be so nice, you know? Meet a good Samaritan who really wasn't all that good.
I was working investigations when we were investigating this guy that was committing a series of robberies. He committed 20 and later admitted to doing about 50. And after we arrested him, he was in jail, in our jail, and we had put out a flyer to all the local departments describing the car that was used. And his friend drives into the parking lot. He matched the description of the other suspect, and he was arrested.
What are you doing? What are you doing driving the truck here? What are you thinking? Bring him to jail with me. Yeah, you're gonna love it.
It's a lot easier on us when they drive themselves in.
That's friends helping friends get arrested, huh? Here's a scenario. You're a crook and you know that police are looking for you. You have to hide someplace pronto. Where do you? Needs to be bigger than a bread box, but small enough that no one would think of looking for you there. So here's how the first of two fugitives solved his problem.
I'm Chief Dan Pukach with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office in Cleveland, Ohio. One day we were going to serve a warrant on an individual, and two detectives went to his house. Sheriff's Office, open up.
Get out of here.
The man came to the front door, seeing that they were detectives, and ran back into the house. The detectives called for backup, and when backup units arrived, and we've got a guy in the house on a warrant. Mike's been watching the back. Paul, you go to the back with Mike. Tom, you come with me to the front. Entry was gained into the house. Sheriff's Office, come on out. They searched in the closets, they searched under the sink, they looked in the beds, they looked in the attic, and they looked in the basement. They looked everywhere where a person could normally hide, and they couldn't find him. They proceeded to search the house for the second time, checking behind the couches, underneath the couches and chairs, and they still couldn't find the subject. There was no way the man could have got out of the house without the officers seeing him. He had to be in the house. On the third search of the house, one of the officers discovered that there was food in the sink, frozen turkey, hamburger patties, stuff that normally belonged in the freezer. When they opened the freezer, there was the suspect turning blue from the cold. He had been in the freezer about 40 minutes by this time. It gave a whole new meaning to a police officer telling a suspect to freeze. He was one of the dumbest criminals of all time.
Okay, so the freezer hideout wasn't such a good idea. But now here's the crook who tries a different spin on things.
Several years ago, when I was a warrant officer uniform, I was serving criminal warrants. We had a subject that we'd been trying to locate on several felony warrants. He had a history of running from officers. There was an occasion where I received a telephone call from an informant one morning telling me that this subject was at a house. I talked to the person that answered the door for about 45 minutes before he allowed us to search the house. During the time I was talking to this guy, we kept hearing a door slam inside the residence. Every time the door would slam, we would all get kind of nervous that the guy was trying to run out of the house. We kept looking and looking and never did see him come out or movement. So finally, the guy that I was talking to at the front door decided I could come in and look. We searched the house, we searched the attic, we looked in every closet, under beds, and didn't locate him. But we kept hearing the door slam. We had all the doors watched by an officer and still couldn't find the guy. Finally, I was looking around in a laundry type room, and there was a dryer sitting there, and this guy was curled up inside this household dryer. What the door sound was we kept trying to hear was him slamming the door, trying to get it shut. With his weight in the dryer, it wouldn't close up. The only regret I have about this arrest is we didn't turn the dryer on first. The guy that I was looking for had a history of, every time he got arrested, we had about 7 pictures of him wearing the same t-shirt. And he had it on when we arrested him that day. I told him he should throw that shirt away. Bad luck.
Some people say that the secret to success in life is to stay hungry. Now, that's just what brought down our final criminal of the night.
We found the idea of a little late-night snack irresistible, and that's what made this guy so arrestable. We serve up his story for tonight's entry in We're Not Making This Up.
The story that comes to mind was of a criminal case that we had was this guy who broke into a local deli store here in Saranac Lake, and that was dumb. We got a call of an alarm going off. It was a silent alarm. Once we got to the store, we looked through the front window. We noticed there was an individual behind the counter making what appeared to be a sandwich, and that was dumb. At the time, we thought it was just an employee, so upon investigating a little bit further, we found that there was forced entry to one of the back doors of the building, and that was dumb. We went in and apprehended the person who was hiding underneath the deli counter at the time, and that was dumb. If he would have just taken the cash and left the store, he would have probably gotten away with it. However, he decided he was a little hungry. He stopped to make himself a sandwich before he left. And that was dumb, dumb, dumb.
Well, we've run out of time and stories for tonight, so I think I'll go home and make a sandwich. I'm hungry
He's
now.
always hungry.
It made me hungry.
Good idea. I think I'll check references on my dentist after this show, too.
Yeah.
Maybe make sure there's nobody in my freezer or my dryer.
Yeah, you're paranoid now.
Oh, man.
But you folks at home, do whatever seems prudent, okay? But just make sure you're back here next week because we'll have another great lineup of America's dumbest criminals.
And if you've got a lead on a story or you just can't wait till next week for more state-of-the-art stupidity, visit our website at www.dumbcrimes.com.
We want to thank you for joining us and extend our gratitude to the law enforcement officers who make this show possible. Every day they lay their lives on the line to keep us safe from the stupidity of would-be criminals.
As always, we hope that we've all learned from others' mistakes.
But if you haven't, we just might see you next week on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Goodbye.